where we commit to being as transparent as possible about our expectations, and industry commits to working in as responsive a way as possible to address our concerns. And you know, I think it is helpful to lay out some time frames for action as well that will become the standard of practice, and it will help move issues more swiftly towards appropriate conclusions. And I think that's good for industry, it's good for FDA, and it's good for the health of the people. Oh, how we would work more closely with other regulatory agencies. Well, I think we already do work with state and local partners on many areas of activity, especially in the food safety area. Also, we live in an increasingly globalized world, and the importance of working with sister regulatory agencies around the globe is increasingly important and a very high priority for me. I actually, very early in my tenure as FDA Commissioner, went over to meet with counterparts in the European Union to talk about how we could work more closely together, how we could work towards increasingly harmonized standards and approaches, and how we could share information confidentially, of course, but to enhance the work of our mutual agencies.
Now we'll try it again.
Commissioner Hamburg, John Fletter from the law firm of Hyman, Phelps and McNamara. You talked about how FDA is going to explain its rules and regulations. We've seen, particularly over the last few years, any number of court rulings where the courts have talked about the complexities of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. And the issue in those cases hasn't been that the FDA's rules and regulations are unclear, but rather there are no rules and regulations, and what the statutory terms mean is not really clearly defined by Congress or by the FDA. Under your leadership, does FDA intend to try to bring some clarity to the courts and to regulated industry as to what some of these ambiguous terms actually do mean, in the FDA's view?
Well, you certainly don't need to tell me about the complexity and the often opaqueness of aspects of the food and drug law and the complicated legal and regulatory framework in which we all must operate. I am certainly committed to trying to both make the FDA more transparent and also to be more explicit and bring a new clarity of policy to the guidances we put out and to our formulation of new rules and regulations. It is complex territory, and I think that you know, not all of it can be put into plain language, and not all of it is as straightforward as we might want it to be. But I think that we have an opportunity, in some ways symbolized by today's meeting, to work together in a more open and collaborative way, so that we can hear from practitioners about how we can do our job better in explaining and articulating and laying out our standards and expectations, and I think we have committed already through our transparency initiative and other actions to really trying to do a better job at communicating. I think trying to get things out in a more timely way is also important. You know, I've discovered that the expected time frame for certain things, things that are just routinely accepted, sort of boggle the mind of someone coming in from the outside, and perhaps, you know, my own naivete may help move the ball forward a little bit, because, you know, some of these time frames just don't seem acceptable to me.
We have time for just one last question, please.
Thank you, Dr. Hamburg, for your time. My name is Michael Gabe, and I'm a partner with Holland & Knight here in Washington, D.C. And to build up of your theme of transparency, recognizing that the FDA's jurisdiction is broad and wide, covering many different types of technologies and products. As you can appreciate, oftentimes violations are brought to the attention of the agency through what's commonly known as the trade complaint process, where folks in this room who represent various entities who are playing by the rules, so to speak, identify non-compliant competitors and bring those issues to the attention of the agency. In my own experience, that process has been less than transparent, and I'd like to ask you your thoughts on how perhaps we can make that more transparent along the theme that you've articulated today.
Well, I'm actually not quite sure what you're asking for to be more transparent. Would you like it to be more transparent when a company comes raising concerns about another company? You would like that process to be more?
I think the whole investigatory process could be more transparent. The experience I've had, and I don't know if others in this room have shared it, but to date, when a non-compliant situation is brought to the attention of the agency, other than getting an acknowledgement that the complaint's been received, there's very little, if any, communication with the complainant about status, timing, or action. And so it's almost as if these situations go into a deep, dark hole without any sense of timing, of movement, or concern. And so I think in that context, it would be very helpful to be thorough and prompt to be transparent and engage with those who are bringing the issues to the agency's attention, and again, with the goal line being improving the public health.
Mm-hmm. Well, if I may, I will take your question/comment as an entry into the work of our transparency task force. It's an important point that you're raising, and clearly, when actions are taken, that is public information and available to those that may have raised the concern and those that are responsible for correcting the concern. But the broader aspects of your comment, I think I need to work with the Transparency Task Force and work with the very able staff at the FDA to determine what would be the appropriate level of information and mechanism for providing greater feedback on those kinds of inquiries. Well, I think that's it, but thank you very much, and I do look forward to working with all of you from gaining from your experience. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Hamburg, for your very informative and very transparent remarks. I'm sure you got everyone's attention now. Thank you. Have a good day.